Okay, we're rocking. Some of the members here have already made capsules before. Actually, we were talking about how to help supply because it's actually one of the highest in demand products is the capsules. So we've kind of already gone through the harvesting, then the separating and washing, then the drying process, having it on the racks. Then we just did the powder, and now we're going to make the capsule from the powder. So today we've just kind of rolled through the whole line, and even made some moringa tea. So this can be a little overwhelming and daunting at first. We have a nice machine here. I kind of want to bring this down a little bit more too, so you guys can see. Okay, perfect. So I have a little clean tray here, so that way any powder doesn't get on it. We also do it in a room on metal surfaces. This is just demonstration, for the day. I usually wear gloves and everything. And so you want to also do it in a space where you don't have any animals and no carpet. Because believe it or not, that carpet is a host for bugs, bacteria, mold. I don't know how carpet ever even became a thing, honestly. I'm against it. So this is our beautiful 400 machine. And this is a 00 size, which is kind of like a standard size cap. But the elderly and the children, they love a 0 size. And so we have a brand new one here that we just got, which is the 0 size. And it's a little bit smaller for children and elderly. So they're separate. So that way we could have a 00 pumping out, and we could have 2 people just pumping out the different sizes. And I was telling them that we have someone here almost 4 hours a day, 2 to 3 days a week, and we still can't keep up with capsules with the amount of orders that are coming in. So sometimes I end up having to put the price up to slow it down a little bit. But if there's times where I have a lot in stock and I'm like, oh, all I do is drop it down a couple bucks. Boom, 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 cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. It's just crazy how people are like, I don't know what price. Oh, you'll know, you'll find out, because if you have it so low and you're overworked and you're tired and you're not making enough profit, then the rule is, with too much demand and not enough supply, price goes up. That's why we create shortages and things like that. Okay. So this machine comes in many parts. I made this to help towards one of the steps. And we have what I call a guiding plate. We have a bottom. So what I'll do is I'm going to put the guiding plate on the bottom, and we're going to go ahead and just put the powder in there now. So we have our powder that we just made. We sifted it, and we're going to go, oh, I've got to get the empty capsules. We need those. Okay. So we get well, now they have a new kind called pullunin, which is like a harder cellulose and is still considered vegan, halal, kosher. So these are the tops. It comes in a couple thousand in a bag. We usually order about 10,000 at a time. And it's gone. It's gone. Like we make 10,000 like in no time. So what I'll do is I'll dump the bottoms in here first. And you'll be able to come back and see all these steps. And then we shake it. Oh, shake this. All right, so then we shake it, and you can see how they're falling through there. So I like to just look. Sometimes it takes a minute. I got my hand over this opening over here. And you can kind of figure out what you want. If you want a left to the right or the up and down. But what I've noticed is that the more that you have in here, the better. And sometimes if you're missing some, you can just kind of go through and look and just kind of work your way down to see if there's any missing, and just kind of quickly kind of go through and see if there's any openings. You can tell because the capsule kind of gives a little bit of a glare at the bottom, but if it's not in there, then it's flat. You know, it's kind of like you can see all the way to the bottom, so it's pretty easy to see. We've gotten this down to where it takes us about 20 minutes to make 500 or 400 at a time. But, you know, while we're demonstrating, it's going to take a little bit longer, and we're talking and having fun. But then we're going to go ahead and just pour that back in. See that opening, how it just kind of guided in there? All right. Some of them may be upside down, but they've designed this machine so that way it really does a really good job with putting them in there in the right orientation. But then after you've kind of got it cleaned out, then lift it up, and that's where you're going to find any of the ones that are upside down. So see how I'm just kind of holding that in? I'm flipping some of these around. We just got to get all 400 of these bottoms in here. So I'm still holding this one down in the middle, see? And see how it's kind of bending it, so it's revealing those, so that way I can see. And you guys can come up if you want to get closer to see really quickly, just to see what it looks like. You're more than welcome to come in and kind of see what I'm looking at, to be able to easily see the exposed spots that might still be open from just a kind of like a quick glance. My eyes are already trained. I've already been doing this 10 years. Oh, you want to see the one that I started on? This is how I started. Oh. Look at the little minis. Look at the little minis. Oh, 24 at a time. 24 to 400. That's it. Just a little bit. That's how I started. And I would be hours and hours just to fill up 100. Hey, started from the 24. Now we at 400. All right. Yeah, the story goes, I was at the farmer's market for the first time, and I had loose leaf on the table in a glass jar. Just a little 4-ounce glass jar. I had one of them on the table. I was so happy. It was my first market. Just graduated. I was like, hey, Dad, I'm going to be a farmer. He's like, what? You're not going to go get a job? He's like, I'm like, no, that's you. And he was like, well, what do you want for graduation? I said, a tent and a table. That table is my graduation present. And that was my first table that I took to the market. And the tent that I have is still out there. And I said, I just want a tent and a table. So he got me a tent and a table for my first market. And that was my graduation present. And I was off to the races. Then that same day, that first market, the first lady that came up to me was like, oh, you have moringa? I have a big old moringa tree in my backyard. That's the tree that's on the cover of the free moringa manual. That big old tree is her tree, Nancy's. She's in South Tampa. And I was like, you've got a big old tree in your backyard? No way, you're literally like my first customer. She's like, yeah, I'll get your loose leaf. I'm like, why? You have a tree in your backyard. Why would you buy? But it's like, you think I'm worried about having hundreds of thousands of growers? We all have the opportunity to grow tomatoes, but we still go to the store and buy tomatoes. I am not worried about competition or more people growing it. Like, there's just people that, like Nancy, that had a tree in her backyard, but is buying it from me at the market because it's supporting.
People that know they have a moringa tree have no clue what to do with it.
Exactly.
It's funny to watch and talk to somebody. That was the garden club.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So she was like, oh, I'll get your loose leaf. That's great. I'll make some tea. I was like, wonderful. And then the next customer was like, you have any powder? I was like, oh, shoot. So next week I came, I had loose leaf and powder. And then I had some customers, hey, you got any capsules? And the next week. And so that's all how all of this started, was doing all of that. All right, so we've got our bottoms in. We're going to set that aside, okay? Then we're going to come back to that. We're now going to do our tops. So we have to do the same thing with our tops. All right, so we've got our tops and our guide posts. So we'll go ahead and close that up. And we'll get our tops. So put those in there. Like I said, the more, the merrier, because they end up, you know, getting vertical and they fall in the holes better when there's more of them. So we'll shake it. So you can put, you know, a lot in here. And you don't really see as much on this one, but I've noticed that they fall in pretty fast on the smalls, on the tops. I call the small ones the tops and the big ones the bottoms. Okay, so then we'll just do that extra double check. We're going to make sure that they're all in there so we can take the guide off. The trick is that once you take this guide off, and see, now that I've been using it a lot more, they don't get stuck in there as much. Like the first month or so of this machine, it was still, you know, kind of, yeah, it was still, oh, yep. But before, even like when I first got it, there would be a lot stuck in there. It's nice that it's kind of just wearing out a little bit enough. Man, the precision though, for them to know that, you know, like what's the proper engineer term? The what's the thing that can be variable, the plus or minus? What is that called? I forget what that's called. The give and the take, like the hot, if you have a hot or a cold. It's the same thing with this. Is like they've already engineered this machine to where they know over time that it's going to wear to the point where it's going to be perfect. You know, they didn't make it this size. They made it a little tight. So that way, a little bit over time, it gets perfect. Kind of like wine. Aging. Okay. We all in? I think so. Okay. Then we put our protector on there. This thing right here is clutch, because if we were to mess this up or flip this over, all those tops would fall out. So we go ahead and put this on, and there's a ridge here for your thumb, so you know that it's up. And these are beveled to where it's bigger and then smaller. So it's a smaller circumference and a bigger circumference. What that does is when you put this on, the bigger circumference is on the bottom, so it allows you to just slide them on, and now once it's on, you can flip this under. But then what we're going to do is we're going to fill our bottoms with powder. Oh yeah. We'll use our tool here. The goal is to get this lovely powder. Look at this beautiful green, fresh powder. Oops, we're stacking it up in here. Just dropping it in all the holes. We have all the bottoms filled.
Can I do a short video?
Yes, please, film. Yes, please come on in, make a video. Camera right now is just on me, but you're more than welcome to come in, take a little short, showcase. Hey, welcome. Welcome to our Moringa members meetup, where we demonstrate and make all of the products, because mostly people have trees in their backyards, but they're like, how do I use it? How do I make the stuff? You know, and once you open up that door and you start making stuff from moringa, you're like, oh, I could do that with this and that. Because the power, empowering yourself to be able to dry an herb and then make tea and then make powder and then make a supplement and then sell it, that pays for your taxes on your property. That could pay for your child's graduation, you know. Although I would think that maybe buying a house and 18 years later you could sell it, that's more of like a graduation present for your child. But I like to just plant a tree and plant a seed every day because it's an investment, because I know every day after a year to 2 years or 3 years, that tree is getting bigger and it's producing more. So we do our first layer like that, and then we just lift that up. We'll put that back in there. But then what's cool is that they give us this thing here. And this is kind of like what helps us to compress it down. We want 500 milligrams in each one. So we're going to get that pressed down in there, right? So that helps to compress the powder into the cap, right? 500 milligrams. You want a 500 milligram. That's the 0,0 size. The 0 size is about 300 milligrams. Then what I do is, even just right here, we've got a lot of powder on the surface. So we can go ahead and just put that right back down into it. And we're just going to fill these back up. We've already compressed and packed it once. We don't need to do it again. But essentially, I'm doing this part without the guide. And I'm just kind of getting in there, making sure all the holes are filled. And there'll be some excess. It's okay. Then we just put it right back in the bowl and we'll use it. But I'm just making sure that it's compressed once and then filled to the top. Okay, now we can come back. We've got our tops, and they're already well protected in the case. And you want to align your holes, because there's holes built into this top, so that way when you press it, it goes down in the hole. And you want it to click. So we're getting all the clicks. And so I'm just pressing it down to where I can feel them all clicking in place. So they're all clicking. And then I'm using my finger. I'm using my finger here. And you can see that I'm lifting that up off of that one. That protector. The protector is no longer there. The tops are no longer in there. Instead, it's made and they're in here. And they're full. And so what I did was, wow, okay. Now my design brain is going. It's like, how do I get them out of there? Usually the best things are the simplest things. And that's where I cut this to fit this. And this is the magic step right here. Catch it, because it's going to happen fast. But that didn't come with the machine. It just took to figure out, like, how do I get all of them out at once? To where now I literally can take a pouch, an empty pouch, And this will be my giveaway pouch. But this is just for demonstration, just to show you that essentially it's easy to then, now there's 400 in there, so you could count them out one by one, but that's why I have a 500 count, because then I can just easily go in there very easily. Boom. Done. And that saved a lot of time just with that little piece in there. And boom, look how pretty and clean it is. And that's it. The magic is just in the presentation. Once it's done, it's like, whoa. Let's do it again. And then do it again and do it again. And then do it in your sleep. Because that's all you have to do. You just have to do this every day. And that could bring a very, very good living. Even just doing that. Even if you're buying in powder and making capsules, it's a really great business just to even flip it that way. You could double, triple your money even in that way. And it just depends on where you want to buy your powder from, because if you're a USDA powder person and you want to be in shops and stores and Amazon, you'd buy your powder from USDA, which is India, Africa, Philippines, Mexico. There are no USDA Moringa operations in the US. So when, farms, right? Yeah, well, the one is in Puerto Rico, and that's for research. And the other one is in Texas, and they got hit with the frost 2 years ago, wiped them all out. He spent 5 years setting up his USDA Moringa operation. One frost came through, was gone.
What does it mean when you see a bottle of capsules or powder or tincture and it says USDA, right, from Nicaragua and India? Or
they've mixed it.
Is that what that means?
Oh, yeah, it means because there's a shortage of Moringa, especially USDA Moringa, because conventional farms are transitioning into Moringa, but they have heavy metals.
Yeah.
And so then when they come in and they're imported and they're tested, say like from all the big Moringa companies that tested, and then they're coming in already with heavy metals. So they have to reject it. And so there's a huge shortage of high quality USDA powder. And I saw that as we need to just grow as much USA powder that's in our way of growing organically, clean, you know, in places, because we have codes. In other countries, there's no code. And you're farming on, and the chemicals, it's super strong, and people are I don't know if you guys know this, but the number one rate of suicides is actually farmers.
Yeah.
And then behind that is children, you know, like between the ages of 7 and 14. It's nuts. It's terrible. He's like, don't go there. But it's a big thing that's on my mind as to why I also talk a lot about mental health with this job, because it can get, you know, it can take a toll if you're not doing things better and better and better every time you do it, to get your time down and to get yourself out of the working mode all the time. And that's what I constantly am trying to do, is to get better to where I have a small window of time in the day that I work, where for 4 hours of the day I'm doing this, and then I'm hitting the beach. You know, I have to just to kind of get out of that constant work mode. And I want you guys to do it and love it and not get burnt out. Great. Sorry to have taken it there, but you know, it's the truth. Farmers have the toughest jobs, and it's the most important because we're feeding the people. But 50 years ago, over 50% of the population were farmers, and now it's less than 1%. And this knowledge that I see here that we're teaching is just bringing it back to what we already know. A lot of the things that I'm saying, it's like you kind of know it because it's in there. It's already in the DNA. So wonderful. We got the chat. We got some members in here. Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. Well, we just made some caps. we'll come back. What's after capsules is maybe pellets. And we're going to get more into like the business side, the logos and labels, and really close it up with exactly how to tie it all together with all these products and get your questions answered, of course. Are there any other questions about capsules before we end it? Everybody's pretty good. You just got to get your hands in it. Once you do, you'll get the steps. These videos are going to help you with those steps. So thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it.